Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome everyone to the review of the epic action film, The Odyssey, which is written and directed by Christopher Nolan, who is fresh off of his Academy Award winning efforts with Oppenheimer, and he is adapting Homer's ancient Greek epic, The Odyssey, and the film stars Matt Damon as Odysseus and chronicles his long and perilous journey home after the Trojan War and his encounters with these mythical beings as he attempts to reunite with his wife Penelope, who is portrayed in this film by the beautiful Anne Hathaway. Also in this stacked all-star cast of just Hall of Famers, if if you will, Tom Holland, who we are getting back-to-back Tom Hollands. Just in a couple of weeks, we're getting him in Spider-Man. But before we get him in Spider-Man, he pops up in here along with Robert Pattinson, Lupita Nyong'o, Samantha Morton, Zendaya, Charlize Theron, and the list goes on and on. John Bernthal. It's a plethora of a cast here. Travis Scott. Yeah, I figure I'd throw that in there. Travis Scott is in this movie. This is a review of one word. You know, it's only one word I can describe certain elements of this film. Not because I'm dodging spoilers, it's just I have no other way to describe it. When you say, what was the Odyssey? How was the Odyssey? My immediate response would be masterpiece. And when you ask me about Christopher Nolan, my immediate response will be genius. This is one of the most satisfying, exciting theatrical experiences I've had in God knows how long. I have never, well, I'm not going to say never, but I cannot remember a time when I finished watching a film, walked out of the theater, and wanted to go back to the box office, get another ticket, and go sit right back down. Even though this movie is 3 hours long, I didn't care. It was amazing. It is everything that I expected and more. I expected this to be a entertaining film, a thrilling film, because I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan. And if you're a fan of Christopher Nolan films, this is the movie for you. He is in his bag in this film. He is directing the piss out of this movie. I cannot express how thrilling this movie was. I'm sitting in this theater with reclining seats. Everybody in the theater were, they're chilling, got their feet cocked up and leaned back, comfortable and happy watching the movie. I did not recline my seat. I was literally sitting up in my seat, on the edge of my seat. When you hear that expression, edge of your seat, excitement, that was me. It was a picture of me watching the Odyssey. I was on the edge of my seat from start to finish. I could not sit back. I was just hypnotized by what was going on screen. Everything was absolutely beautiful. Let's start with the cinematography here. And I cannot pronounce the cinematographer's name. I apologize. Just look him up. He's worked with Nolan a number of times, worked with him on Oppenheimer and whatnot. But these are some of the most beautiful landscapes. I really felt like we were in ancient Greek. They filmed this movie in Scotland and Morocco. They also filmed in Greece as well, but Italy and the Sahara Desert and all this, they were all over the world. This was a global effort to bring this film to life. but it really felt like I was in ancient Greece, in ancient, at least those times, voyaging out. And oh my God, it was so beautiful. It was gorgeous the way this film looks. And, this is the first film, I believe, that was shot entirely with IMAX cameras. And you could tell. I mean, the scale of this was bananas. It was like watching the only way I can compare this movie as far as scale, I have to go back to the 50s and 60s, like to Ben-Hur, to the Ten Commandments, biblical epics like that, where they made these big epic large scale films with thousands of extras and stuff of that nature. That's the most recent, I should say, films I can reach back to compare to this film. They don't make movies like this no more. This looks absolutely gorgeous on screen. You need to see this in the biggest screen possible. If you don't have a 70 millimeter screen, which they shot this on, which there are none around me, which kills me. But I I did see it in IMAX, and it was good. It was satisfactory, but I wanted to see in the 70 millimeter. But see it in the largest screen you can see. It's worth every penny. I know it's a little extra. I get it. Times are hard. It's worth every penny. I felt like I owed the theater money after I left out of after I left out of this movie. It looks amazing, but not only with the large shots, the large scale shots, the wide angle shots, even with the close up, the personal moments, the way Nolan and his cinematographer captured the face of our lead actors, especially Matt Damon, when he was going through what he was going through. It was magic. It was pure magic. And speaking of Matt Damon, this is a perfect segue into our performances here. Every performance worked. Every single actor brought their A game. It's starting with the lead here, Matt Damon. This is probably the best Matt Damon I've ever seen. And I love Matt Damon. Matt Damon, I mean, this is Jason Bourne, man. This is Will Hunting. Yeah, he is a phenomenal performer. But this performance by him in this movie is hands down his best. It's not even close. He had the responsibility of holding down this grand story, putting it all on his shoulders. This was his movie. And we went on this ride with him from his perspective, from his POV. And every single emotion that he was feeling, this character of Odysseus was feeling. You felt it through his performance, whether it was through spoken word or facial expressions or just his mannerisms. You felt it, the way he walked. How he walked in the beginning of the film versus how he walks at the end of the film. It tells a tale. It tells a story, and that arc is so satisfying. It's so good. And, just to say, I should have said this to start off the review, like millions of others out there, I'm pretty sure we all had to read the Odyssey in high school. And this is the one thing in high school that I actually enjoyed and retained throughout my 4 years of high school. I love the Odyssey. I love Greek mythology as a whole, but I just love the Odyssey. And I already knew the story, so I already knew how it was all going to end. But I can honestly say I sat there and it felt like I never read it. It felt so new and so fresh. And that goes to the writing here by Christopher Nolan, his direction, and the performances. Do not be shocked if you hear Matt Damon's name around award season at the beginning of next year or the end of this year, whenever they start announcing that. But he was phenomenal in this film as Odysseus. But he wasn't alone. He wasn't the only one cooking There were a lot of chefs in that kitchen. The other one would be Anne Hathaway as Penelope. Anne Hathaway, she wasn't just the lowly wife sitting there waiting for her husband and woe is me and blah blah blah. There's pain in her performance. There's also strength in her performance. And her character wasn't just a one note character sitting at a chair weaving this shawl. And no, it wasn't that. It wasn't. It was so much more to her character, even though that's all she's basically doing throughout the film. But through her performance, man, Anne Hathaway, my God, I didn't know she had that gear. And kudos on her. Tom Holland. Tom Holland was good. Tom Holland did not compare to anybody else in here. I think everybody was great, but Tom Holland was good. And that's not saying that Tom Holland did a bad job. It's just that he wasn't on the level of Damon and Hathaway in this film. And another performer who I'm going to get to. And because he had kind of a big role here. And it didn't, even though he had some scenes, it came in spurts. And I don't think it's his fault. That's why I'm not really harping on him too hard. I don't think it's his fault because this wasn't technically his story. But I left away from the film wishing I had a little bit more from him. You know, and like I said, it wasn't that he left something on the table. I was interested in his character. His character was really good. A very important character for this film, for this role, for this story. And I just wanted a little more, but I know we couldn't spend too much time with him because we had to fully flush out Matt Damon's performance. But I enjoyed Tom Holland in this film. There are two performances that are kind of scene stealers or movie stealers, maybe. Depending on how you look at it. And I can see best supporting for both of these performers. I see a best supporting actor for one and a best supporting actress for another. One in particular will be probably going to throw a lot of people off if it happens because she was only in one scene, and that is Samantha Morton. Oh man, what a performance by her. She plays Cersei, and if you know Cersei from the Odyssey, you know what she is. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into spoilers here and who she is, bruh. That scene that she's in, number one, that scene, it turned very quick into a horror movie. That's it went pure horror in that scene. I was so disturbed by that scene. it blew my mind. But she was amazing in that scene. And man, I wanted more to her. I was mad that we only got one scene with her. But I get it for the story. Yeah, that's it. That's it. There was nothing else to tell about it. But she was phenomenal. The other standout, the kind of scene stealer, John Leguizamo. I literally, every time he stepped on the screen, he's not in the movie long and he's not in the movie much, but every time he was on screen, I was fully engaged in his character. He was unbelievable, man. And I've seen John Leguizamo in dramas and movies of heaviness before, so it didn't shock me that he could play a role like this. But man, this is once again probably his best performance ever. I would not be shocked if his name is thrown in a hat for best supporting actor coming down the road here. Robert Pattinson as the antagonist in this film, as one of the suitors or would-be suitors for Penelope. Awesome. Once again, one of his best. And I'm not just speaking in hyperbole when I'm throwing out best and all this here. I'm telling you this from my heart. This is the God honest truth. These actors in this film gave their best performances, or one of their best performances of their careers in this movie. Robert Pattinson here playing this slimy, manipulative, conniving, just con man, I guess you could say. And his character is compared to James Woods' character in Casino, but dialed to 11. That's him in this movie. Standing ovation for this wonderful, wonderful cast. And I must say, if there is one flaw with the cast, it would be Lupita Nyong'o. And it's not for the reason all these clickbait people are doing, just trying to get engagements and stuff. She's black. How can she be Helen of Troy? She's not that attractive. All that, whatever. That's not the reason. Because Lupita Nyong'o is absolutely beautiful. But it was because she wasn't in it much. She wasn't. All that whining people were doing, all that crying people were doing, because Lupita Nyong'o is playing Helen of Troy. They can go kick rocks, go touch grass somewhere. She is barely in this movie. That's my only problem with Lupita Nyong'o being in this movie. But once again, it's not her story. This isn't Troy. You want to go watch Troy, the Brad Pitt movie? Go watch that. It'll go more in depth than with Helen of Troy. This isn't that story. But that's it. That's the only problem I had with it. She played she has two roles in this movie, to be honest with you. Both are interesting. Both are good. She was good when she was on screen. That ain't the problem. I'm just saying she wasn't in it enough. So it just blew my mind. I'm sitting there like, people literally lost their minds, probably not even going to go see this movie because she's in it as this character. They're idiots. People are stupid. But anyway, moving on. Everybody else, not one flaw as far as the cast is concerned. Not one flaw. The direction here. What can I criticize? What can I say? I don't know what to say, other than the fact that Christopher Nolan is hands down the best working director currently right now working. It's not even close. Not even close. I don't know anybody. The only one who probably comes closest will be a Ryan Coogler. That's the only one. And he is miles away from Christopher Nolan. And I love Ryan Coogler. But man, this dude was firing on all freaking cylinders, bruh. The way he told a non-linear story, because we're all over the place. In the hands of any other director, this movie would be pure hot garbage. I'm talking with the same cast, same crew, the same budget, and you put a different director in the chair, this movie is hot garbage. But the mere fact you have Christopher Nolan, who knows what he's doing, who knows what he wants, and knows how to tell a story, made this movie an instant classic. He told a non-linear story. Like, we go in flashback mode. We hop back into present time and back to the flashback, and then the flashback will have a flashback, and then we're back in the present time. Yeah, it would confuse and throw anybody off on any given day. But you followed this perfect. I mean, there's no lost point. You know exactly where you're at as the viewer. You know exactly what's going on. When a scene starts, picks up or whatever, and you know, sometimes you be in a theater and you be watching a movie or be at home, whatever, and you're too busy trying to catch up from the previous scene, and you miss what's in the scene that's playing now because you're trying to catch up with all of the back and forth and doing this, that. But not the way Christopher Nolan made this movie. He took his time It is no rushing through scenes. He really paced this out well. But that brings me to the one and only flaw, real honest to God flaw I have with this movie. And that's at the end of this film, in the third act, it slows down. And I mean, all the way down. Because we get up to a point where we had got our heart rate up to about 120. And then it kind of hit the brakes, and our heart rate dropped to like 40. That's borderline heart attack. It slowed down, and it slowed down for like 10, 15 minutes. At least it felt like 10, 15 minutes. It could have been 5. I don't know, but I was so anxious to get to the climax. My mind was going crazy, but it just slowed a little too slow. It went a little too slow. Oh, but don't fret. When that motor gets running again, we picked back up, and we were full throttle to the end of this movie. I really, really, really hope, wish, and pray all of you go see this in a theater. This is a theatrical movie through and through. There's no, oh, I'll wait for it to come on streaming, or I'll wait for it to drop on digital. You're not going to appreciate it the way it needs to be appreciated. Back to Nolan before we check out of here. One thing about Nolan that I did kind of have some trepidation about going in, or some worries about going in, was the fantastical elements of it all. Because we're dealing with Greek gods and, witches and cyclops and giants and sirens and all this other good stuff. That actually worked. He made it work. It felt grounded, which is odd. It felt so real. All of these fantastical elements that normally we've seen in the past in movies like this, it's just magical looking. It's CGI written and all this other stuff. I'm pretty sure he used CGI in this, but not much. Not much at all. It's just subtle, fantastical elements that he put in this film. And it worked so real. That's why it felt so real. That's why it felt like ancient Greek. It just felt like this was a real story. I'm so impressed by this movie. This was my most highly anticipated film of the year, coming into 2026, and it did not disappoint at all. This was a masterpiece. The Odyssey gets a letter grade of an A+. Yeah, even with my little faux pas that happened at the end, and it didn't slow down and the story got stupid. It was telling the story, and it worked with the story. It's more of a me thing. I should have put that plainly. It's more of a me thing because I was so anxious to get to the climax. I was like, come on, let's get on with it already. It was like sitting there at the beginning of the movie before the movie started with the trailers. I'm waiting for this movie to start, and I'm like, okay, that's it for the trailers. Let's start. Let's get this party started, And it was pretty much the same thing in the third act. I'm like, okay, let's get to it. Let's get to the climax here. But this is an A+ film, perfect film, masterpiece. Christopher Nolan, brilliant filmmaker. That's my humble opinion about the Odyssey. I would like to know yours. Did you read it in high school, or am I tripping? Or maybe I just picked it, because I can't see myself just picking up the book. I felt I had to be forced to read that. So am I the only one, or maybe it's you? And what did you feel about the film? Come subscribe to the kbradionetwork.com website, where you can get updates on all new episodes here on the channel, as well as YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Like this video while you're there. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening. to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.